and welcome, Kul. Thank you so much for joining me. I know we've already just had a really good 45-minute chat before we started. But for anybody who doesn't know Kul, but this is Kul Mahay, and I'm going to really hand over to Kul now and to introduce himself, because he's got so much that he can more eloquently describe about himself before we can really then sort of go into his career journey from the beginning to where we are now. But just over to you, Kul.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And first and foremost, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's a huge honor. So here I am. I'm Kul Mahay. I'm a leadership and emotional intelligence trainer, developer, speaker. That is what my passion is, and that's what I do with so many organizations, from police forces through to universities, through to the public sector, and even private organizations. This is the kind of work that I absolutely love doing, and it doesn't feel like work because it just feels like I'm following a passion and making a real change in the world. And where it comes from is, my 32 years in policing. That was my passion at the time. At the age of 16, I joined the police service. It was the only job I ever wanted to do. But when I got into the police service, I realized there's so much as an organization, as a service, so much that needed to be changed, because the culture was so much more draconian than it is nowadays, so much more ignorant than it is nowadays. Diversity was a word that was very often touted about, but not necessarily practiced or celebrated. So I made a commitment that I would be the very best leader that I could be, and that the only way I was going to move this organization or even the national service forward is to play my part. So, I worked hard throughout my service and ended up managing lots and lots of different departments. At some times I had several hundred people working with me and for me, managing multi-million-pound budgets. And I made a commitment that whichever department I ever went into, I would make sure that the culture within that department was a culture of being connected, of being emotionally intelligent, demonstrate the very best leadership I could do that was centered around the people in my department. And that's sort of where I am now. This is all I do for organizations. I help them to create emotionally intelligent leaders and emotionally intelligent cultures, because I think, when you look at some of the key things nowadays that people talk about, diversity, fairness, equality, all of those, they would be right if you had an emotionally intelligent culture where everybody was respected, everybody was celebrated, and difference was recognized as a strength and not as a weakness. So that's really where I am right now, and I'm enjoying every single moment of it. And aside from all of this, I teach public speaking. I have my own public speaking course. We keep it very intimate. It's a very intensive 2-day residential program. But the reason why I created this was because I've been on many, many public speaking courses around the world. And I found that, on occasions I was one of 1,000 people in the room. I go on this course and then I come out of this course and nothing happens after that. So I made a commitment, because values are very important for me. I made a commitment that I would keep my courses very, very small. So the maximum that we have on my course is 20 people. More often than not, it's around 10. And when people come off the end of the course, by the second day, they deliver a 15-minute speech. But even after that, we put them to a WhatsApp group. We actively find them speaking gigs. We actively support them for years afterwards in terms of coaching for special speeches that they might have. And I just love that. And I love the fact that we give as much value as we possibly can do, because that's what life and business and work and leadership is about for me.
Absolutely. You've done so much amazing stuff, in the short time that we've kind of known each other, if you like, through sort of both training as coaches. But, I know your background. You were, it was a really senior level you reached in the police, in the Derbyshire Constabulary, wasn't it? Before then you left and retired and then moved into this new one. And you also have got an amazing annual event that I've been to, the second one. Yeah. And I'm going to get my name down for the next one, which is just awesome. But I think if we're okay now, if we could just rewind just back to the beginning, what drove you to go into the police? Because I think, as you said, you mentioned you went in at 16 to actually have that decision. What was it that made you want to go into the police age 16?
Well, for me, it wasn't like a major decision. It just seems like the most natural thing to do. I was one of these kids. At that time, so many kids were infatuated by football or by cars, or I was infatuated by the police service. That's how sad I was. All the books I ever read were around the police service. I used to make a pest of myself, visiting the local police station as often as I could. I'd watch the police officers as they walk people to the football ground, and be mesmerized by this uniform, because the police service meant something for me. It meant that these were the people who protected society from light and dark, and it was that level of powerful for me. These were, if you like, the last stand before people, to prevent people from being hurt, from people, prevent people from having things stolen from them, to protect people at the darkest of times. And it was that level of powerful for me. And I just recognized that the police service was really my vocation. And I didn't look back, even through the toughest times in the police service, some of the things that I've done and experienced and seen and heard, never has there been a day where I thought to myself, I'm in the wrong job. Never. Not in 30 years.
That's incredible. I mean, to have that sense at an early age, and to listen to your instinct and to listen to that, and really embrace your passion, and that sort of natural affinity for wanting to protect, to wanting to look after the issue you mentioned, the dark and the light. It's wanting to be good over evil, if you like, if you want to put it into those sort of basic terms. But actually, you were driven by a real natural instinct, which really propelled you through, and that was that self-belief. And I think you were saying earlier, you watched lots of the TV programs, just really driven by it. But where it started, it just was there, and it really drove you through, because you were in the police for how many years? 32?
32 years, yeah, 32 years in the police service. And I left it 5 years ago, and I guess once you're in the police service, you never truly leave the police service. And I still work with lots and lots of police forces now, to train their leaders, their up and coming leaders, on emotional intelligence and leadership skills. So I still feel part of the family in that sense.
Which is fantastic, because obviously you've got all your new skills, but also you're drawing upon all your old skills, and you've created a whole new career for yourself. But as you say, you've not left it, because you're still integrating it. But we were talking earlier, there's this constant desire for sort of personal development and understanding and learning and embracing and training and teaching other people, which is awesome. You've got so many sort of variants that you have in terms of what you can offer, because as you say, you work with large organizations, you work with the police, you work with individuals, you do speaker training, the Ignite Your Inner Potential event, which we'll talk about in a bit, is awesome. But it's all driven through your passion to want the better to want to empower people and help them grow and develop and be better leaders, because in creating better leaders, you're creating a drip effect.
Absolutely. And for me, this is all about legacy. So, it's about, how do I leave my footprint in this world? And if my footprint is left in the world by me either impacting on people at our annual event, or impacting on leaders in organizations who then trickle out and filter out to like hundreds of people underneath them, if that is the way that I'm going to impact on the world and leave that legacy, then that's what I will do. For many other people, there's so many other ways, whether it's through charity work, inspiring other work that we've seen on television throughout the lockdown period. So many people can impact on the world in so many different ways. And I think if we collectively did that in a sense, with a sense of positivity, we could change this world. But the problem is that we're so fragmented in the way that we do things, and our messaging is so diluted or so confusing in so many different ways, that's why this world is quite a confused place at this moment in time.
Yeah, but what is happening is bringing a lot of things to the surface, and actually things are happening, aren't they? They are moving, and we are having this conversation because of what's been happening. And I think there's a huge time, and certainly for myself, and I think you probably feel the same, there's been a lot of time for sort of collaboration, communication and creativity during this time. And we are bringing together, I know for myself, I've been having some really inspiring and engaging and incredible conversations, and with all the things that I'm wanting to bring about myself, which is kind of similar but different to yourself. It's bringing us all together. We are having these conversations. You are making things happen. I mean, only before we started recording, you talked about setting up your own YouTube channel and having conversations with, you know, world leaders that are going to inspire, that are going to get out there, because that's what we need, isn't it? We need the leaders to feed the people below. And actually, I think what else is happening as well is our youth are very much more waking up. I know for a fact my son, you know, is very much, you know, tuned in, and I think we'll feed from the top, we'll feed from the bottom, and then hopefully, you know, people in between in that sort of sandwich layer will start to
and I think, you know,
wake up as well.
I think, Sarah, that is our challenge, really. And when we talk about feeding from the top, that's sort of what I'm doing with the leadership work. But when it comes to feeding from the bottom, that is the stuff that we need to do in the schools. And in order for us to do that, we need to change the curriculum as it is now, because the curriculum is too much based around IQ, i.e. technical skills, rather than EQ, which is our emotional intelligence skills. And if we had a greater level of awareness of emotional intelligence as younger children, half of the issues that we have as adults that pull us back and prevent us from moving forward would not exist. You know, the self-belief, the self-esteem issues, the confidence issues, the communication issues, all of these would be built and enshrined in at a very, very young age. So I'm doing some incredibly exciting work with, well, we've had 300 schools who have signed up. I've done 4 webinars so far with 300 schools. That's head teachers and senior leaders within schools around emotional intelligence, for their staff, so that educators are much more emotionally intelligent. And then I'm working with another organization who wants to do that with the children and create emotional intelligence there. And I've got my final webinar with them tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to a really good turnout, because I know that schools at this moment in time are going through incredible challenges. My wife's a teacher herself. They're going through incredible times, but also they're on the precipice of incredible change. And it's whether they are allowed to, and they choose to, jump over that precipice to go to a new sense of normality.
Absolutely, and it's fabulous to hear that that's the work that you're doing right now, because that was something I wasn't actually aware of. But you know, I'm actually working on my second book at the moment, and it's very much geared towards parents, carers, and educators of children to encourage and support them following their flow. So it's sort of tapping into that emotional intelligence side, but it's actually getting them to tune into, like you were demonstrating, your passion for working and being a policeman. But it's encouraging them to follow their flow. And what are you talented in? What are you interested in? Gain work experience, explore, you know, that curiosity, you know, find out what it is you love doing, and have the education that's geared towards the studies that are aligned with, and it's obviously going to take a huge shake-up in the education system to do this, but to have modules that are around that, because you know, I see my son driving forward with what he's doing, his passion in terms of fashion and styling and clothing and his beliefs, and he works so hard. At school, wasn't interested because the subject matter wasn't enlightening to, you know, you're in a classroom and the teachers are geared with SAPs and STAPs and whatever you call them, and it's not teaching anymore, it's crowd control. But then it's crowd control of kids whose brains work like this because of technology, wanting to do something that's going to inspire them and engage them. And I think if we can encourage them to study what they are passionate about, they're going to do it normally, and they're just going to want to learn because it's in alignment with what they want to do. And you can integrate your maths, your English, you can introduce your sciences, because it can be all brought into, you want to be a skateboard developer, which my son does. It could be to do with manufacturing skateboard decks. You get to know your numbers that way.
Absolutely,
so, yeah. Sorry, I've gone off, and it's all about you, Cullen. I've just suddenly.
No, not at all. I mean,
but it's great to be both passionate, aren't we?
Yeah, and that's what happens. You know, when you are passionate, what you get from that is energy, and it is this energy that we very often need to meet the challenges that the world will throw at us. We will inevitably have challenges along the way. But I always say there's 3 types of people when it comes to challenge. There are those that give up and go home. They simply don't have enough passion. And passion for me is fuel in your tank to help you to develop resilience to move forward. You'll have those who will fight and and get angry and frustrated and just push back. And for me, they're not thinking with a clarity of mind. They're not thinking in a prefrontal cortex. They're stuck in a limbic system, the emotional part of your brain. And then there are those who do get into the prefrontal cortex, a logical, rational part of your brain, and they look at what I call consequential thinking. What would the consequences be of my behavior or my actions or my words if I were to take this path? Could I take an alternative path? Could I be more empathetic? Could I look at it from a different perspective? What would the solution be? So they ask themselves really open, strategic questions to activate this prefrontal cortex up here, and they become solution focused. And that's sort of where I was in the police service. I could have, with the racism that I experienced, I could have given up and gone home. I could have taken the police service to a tribunal, and many people did, and I saw that it damaged them and the police service at the same time, so no winners there. But I chose the middle ground. I thought, no, well, how can I change this culture? Well, the way I changed the culture or impacted on the culture was not just in getting promoted time and time and time again through sheer hard work, even though I was blocked on certain promotions by various people. I still got to where I got to. Therefore, I was able to impact on the people below me. But aside from all of that, I also was one of the co-founders of a movement called the Black Police Association movement, which became like a support network within every single police force. Then we created the National Black Police Association, and I became the first vice president in the National Black Police Association. And it was a time of the Stephen Lawrence inquiry, the Macpherson report that came out. And consequently, in that position, although I was doing my day job, I was still going to London and meeting with senior politicians. I met with David Blunkett when he's a Home Secretary, Jack Straw when he's a Home Secretary. I met with chief police officers from around the country to help formulate a new policy of recruitment, retention and progression of Black officers. I informed and advised the police service on how we could better serve the Black and Asian communities around the country. So as a young person, although I didn't need to do any of that, because of the passion and I had and the resilience that I had and the consequential thinking that I adopted, I actually got myself right up to a national level, making an impact at a national level, at the highest possible level, at Home Secretary level, which was just incredible. When I think back now, it was incredible. And then, in terms of getting up the leadership level, I could have been held back. This fact that I was in the Black Police Association was not something that exalted me. It wasn't something that helped me to move forward, as a lot of people would suggest. Actually, it held me back because I was now labeled. And I don't like labels. I don't like to be labeled as anything. I don't want to be labeled as brown, or I don't want to be labeled as a man. I don't want to be labeled as a vegan, or what. I don't like labels because they compartmentalize you. So I just want people to see me for who I am and what I do. I want people to see everyone else for what they bring to the party in their strengths and weaknesses, their differences, their uniqueness that they bring. And that's diversity for me. We talk about diversity, and now I'm developing diversity programs for various universities for their staff. And the reason why I'm doing that is because whenever you look at a diversity program, it homogenizes people. We talk about, you can't do this because of this acting section, you can't do this and you can't do that. And actually, all women are the same, and all gay people are the same, all Black people are the same, and it's nonsensical when you think about it, because all gay people are not the same. They all think individually, all women think individually, all Black people are individuals within their own right, as are white people. So true diversity for me is understanding that every single person brings something different to the party. And if we celebrate that, then we have a very healthy, vibrant culture in our organizations, in our communities, and in our country.
Absolutely. And everything you've said, you could have taken the words out of my mouth, because I totally and utterly, completely agree with you. We are all unique individuals. We've all got our differences, and that's when we come together and we collaborate, because we can't all do the same thing. That's not the point. We're all on a journey through life, and it's not about the destination, it's about the experience, but it's embracing our differences, it's working together. We are, like you said, what different kind of doesn't make any difference. It's the spirit that's within. It doesn't matter. We're all different. I don't think the same as the next person. We get into sort of tribes of like-minded thought processes, yes, but we are all different, and that's to be embraced, and it's to be celebrated, and it's just wake up, folks, and celebrate our differences. Look at what you can learn from the other person, and it's exciting. Let's reframe it. And we've both done the same coach training. And how much you knew beforehand, or what I knew beforehand or not, but the coach training trains you. You have to change your own behavior around things. It's about taking responsibility for the self. It's not, there's no blame culture. Just take responsibility for the self and change things like you've done so brilliantly. I mean, it's just absolutely amazing what you've done and what you've achieved. And then having come out of that after 32 years in the police, you don't just go, right, pipe and slippers, because by which time, I don't know, had you given up the smoking at that point? I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, I gave up smoking 16 years ago. I gave up smoking, drinking, meat, fish, eggs, all on the same day, and never turned back. And then I think it's 6 years ago, gave up tea, coffee, sugary drinks, fizzy drinks and juices and things like that, unless they're freshly squeezed, gave those up overnight. And then it was 4 years ago, gave up milk overnight. So yeah, I mean, that's why I wrote my book, and this is the book, Smash the Habit. Cool. It was really to say that, habits, we have this image of habits being about something physical. Well, they're not. Habits are actually about something psychological. And it's very much as you say, Sarah, we have to change our own behavior. In order to change our own behavior, we have to change our thinking. And if you change your thinking, then you become the master of your own destiny. And you can live your life the way you choose to live your life. I know that a lot of people have been struggling in the lockdown period. A lot of business owners who sadly are having to close their businesses or really struggle with their businesses. And I get it for those people who have physical premises or physical products that they sell from physical places. That might be a real struggle, or if they're in the hospitality industry. But there's a lot of other people who are saying, yeah, my business is struggling, when actually all they need to do is pivot and change and adapt. And that's sort of what I've done. And I've won new contracts. I've delivered my services in new different ways. I'm delivering online coaching, online training. Straight after this, I've got a 3-hour coaching session with a managing director. And so if you learn to pivot, and I think it's Charles Darwin, I love this quote from Charles Darwin. He said, "It's not the strongest or the most intelligent of the species that survives. It's the one that is most adaptable." And that's called evolution. And we need to start evolving, because 2020 has become the year of evolution for me, really. I'm evolving all the time, and I want to see mankind, or humankind, evolving likewise.
Absolutely. And I think I played on words before we started to do this recording, and I wonder whether we can actually make it here and put it into stone, if you like, yes, and say we coined the phrase first. I think we will look back with 2020 vision.
I like that. That was Sarah's, not mine, by the way. I just loved it when she said it.
Maybe I need to develop a course and a keynote on that then, Carl. I'll have to come and have
I think you ought to. I think that's a great title for a keynote. Do it now as well. Yes, that's indeed. Mine, by the way. Do it now. Hashtag do it now. Where is it? Over here.
Yeah. Exactly. But it is about pivoting, and I've done, I've had to do the same whilst, I've got a recruitment business, and that just stopped. And I've been pivoting like mad when plan B and plan C went out the window. And for me, it's been an exciting time of creativity and, and doing things that I wouldn't have had the time to do before. I recognise, the level of awareness I've got has enabled me to do that. But in doing it, I'm hoping that I can help, like you do, is help other people change and understand that just by changing your thought processes, you can experience life in a different way. Because I believe life's an illusion of our own creation. It is what we see it is how we perceive it. And that's down to our previous experiences and what we've done. But, don't drag the past behind, learn from it, deal with today and move forward, because we don't even know what tomorrow is going to bring yet.
Absolutely.
We can only deal with the current day, in the present, in the now. And now's great. We're having a great time.
Absolutely. I'm loving every single day. I'm missing seeing people in the flesh, so to speak. But to be honest, I've stayed connected. I've had great conversations such as this. throughout the lockdown period. But it's also been nice not to go out. It's just been nice to stay indoors and choose your environment carefully, i.e. switch off the television.
Oh, yes.
and not be consumed by that, and find that peace and tranquility that lies within, because that's when your creativity flows. Like you
Absolutely.
say, I've come up with some amazing creative ideas, and and pivoted and adapted. But you only do that when you can cut the noise out. You need to cut the noise out to allow yourself to be in the moment.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the beauty. I mean, I've just downloaded a meditation app. I mean, I do a bit of meditation, but thought I need to do more. And it is about that quiet time. But as soon as I get quiet, like you say, the creativity comes in. I'm forever scribbling away all these ideas to capture them. But I mean, you've got so much that you've got going on. I should imagine you're planning as well now for next year's. I mean, we've not really talked about Ignite Your Inner Potential, the event. And I guess we could perhaps sort of draw it to a close by sort of explaining what that is, because if anybody wants to get involved or attend, you really do need to get in touch with Kul, because I went to the second one and it was just amazing. There's so much energy in the room, and Bhangra dancers and music, and I was on the stage giving it some I'm not quite sure whether my arms were doing what my legs were supposed to be doing, but it doesn't matter.
Brilliant. It doesn't matter as long as you're having fun. I mean, Igniting Your Potential, that was born of just a desire of mine to just touch lives. That's all it was. It was just about how many lives can we touch, so that we create this ripple effect throughout society. So Igniting the Potential was born where I wanted to create an event, but like typically of me, if I'm going to do something, I just don't want to just do it. I want to do it to the very best of my ability. So from the very outset, I said it's going to be a high production event. We're going to have all the lights, we're going to have the music, we're going to have create the environment. I don't care what it costs. And it was a bit like that. And at the first one, we got, I think it was 70 people at the first one, which was 3 years ago. And then I think you came to the second one, which was 200 people in Derby. And I also decided at that point that it was always going to stay in my home city of Derby, and because it's in the heart of the UK, so it'll just create that ripple effect. And then the year after that, I think it was 300. And this year we had 350. And we were hoping next year for 450 people. We've had to look at a bigger venue. So we're looking at the Velodrome in Derby, which is a cycle racing track in Derby, beautiful venue. But all of this was the sort of, researched and agreed upon just before lockdown. But the world has changed a bit. So we're now thinking, would people still come out? Would we still be in some kind of a lockdown? Will there still be some social distancing measures in place by January? And there's a chance, there's not a massive chance, but there's still a chance that that would be. And we're also going to be in the peak of flu season. So we're conscious about that. So now we are considering that for 2021, we will probably have it in spring, which is still about fresh beginnings and everything else, which is what Ignite Your Potential is all about. And the title Ignite Your Potential, which by the way now is the title of my business. My business is now called Ignite Your Potential Limited. The title Ignite Your Potential is around what I call fourth quadrant thinking. And that is about, we have 4 quadrants in our lives. The first quadrant is where you have secrets that you don't tell anybody else. There are things that you know about yourself that other people don't know. And that's fine. Everyone has that. Then there's the open quadrant where you know stuff, the same stuff what other people know about you. So you know and they know. And then there is a third element, which is the feedback quadrant, really, because this is what other people see in you that you don't see in yourself. So this is why it's so important to ask for feedback, because you might think that you're useless at something, whereas other people think you're amazing at something. So you ask them, and you'll only know if you ask them. But the fourth quadrant is where the magic happens. The fourth quadrant is the stuff that you don't know about yourself and other people don't know about yourself, but it's there. It's like a cavern. It's like this hidden room within yourself that the door is there, but you are too scared or too lazy or too tired or too whatever it might be to open that door. But in that door, when you walk through that door, is this room that is dusty. But when you take all the dust off and you flick the light switch, it is full of beautiful things inside, beautiful ornaments, beautiful equipment, beautiful potential within that room. And that's what I want people to do. I want people to open up their fourth quadrant. I want people to explore those hidden talents within them. I've had people who have come to Ignite Inner Potential, who have reversed diabetes, who have found happiness after several years of sadness and depression. I've had people who have found jobs when they thought no jobs were ever going to be made available to them, their dream jobs. I've had people who've passed exams that they've been trying to pass for so many years. We've had people who have transformed their lives just by coming to that one day. And we make that one day very fun. It's very loving. We keep the ticket prices. Again, it's my values. I always want to over deliver. You know, ordinarily for an event like this, you could be paying several £100, and many events you do. But in ours, you pay something ridiculous like £50, £60, but you get fed, you get looked after, you get my team literally walking you to your table and asking that you're okay and looking after you and dragging you onto the stage. And if you don't want to be dragged on stage, they'll leave you alone. But they genuinely care about every single person in that room. We have people in that room who are 4 years old. We have people in that room who are 84 years old. And we've had that. And they've equally got something out of it and enjoyed it. So that, for me, just makes my heart burst when I see that. It's the incredible day. And as you know, Sarah, I give so much on that day that I literally lose my voice after every single one, because I just give all of myself, and it's amazing.
It is. I really do. It is an amazing event. Absolutely incredible. And it's just brilliant. As you say, I love that description, how you sort of describe that fourth quadrant. And I love the whole analogy. And it is about people. There's so much stuff that gets squashed and people don't recognize and don't see. And you know, when you're talking to people, you can see their body language and their physiology change. And you know, you get that chink of light in there, as you say, you start to clean it off. And it's amazing when you see people come alive, isn't it? And they can achieve, because we can all achieve. It's just how you change your mindset and having being heard and being listened to, and doing the same for other people, not telling people what to do, but just being there and being supportive and recognizing and giving people that sort of encouragement to be self-confident. And what a brilliant event to do it at as well. So here's hoping it all goes ahead next year, Kul. And I say springtime will be great. It will be lovely.
I think springtime is probably going to be a good time.
The shoots, isn't it, for the year, and then people can be ignited and enlightened and move forward in the year with that sort of that seed being grown within them, which is absolutely awesome. Well, I have to say, it's been absolutely fantastic. And I do believe we could probably talk for probably the rest of the afternoon. But I guess, you know, we've given a real sort of snapshot about you and what you've done and what's driven you, and that passion and that focus that drove you to be such a success, how you've changed your behaviour to change other people's behaviours within the police, how you've taken retirement, not put on the pipe and slippers. In fact, you've kicked all those habits. You've written a book about kicking habits, and you've created a whole new career for yourself, which is, you know, to help other people with their life, to encourage diversity, to understand that we're all different, and to celebrate those differences, to make people look within and ignite that inner potential. And so, really, I mean, I know you've got so much more to come, and I'm really, really excited for you. And I'm going all goosebumpy thinking about you've got so much more. I can just sense it. There's just going to be this will be, I probably won't be able to interview Kul in the future because it'll be so famous.
You'll always be able to interview me, Sarah, and I don't think I'll ever be that
once
famous.
I've got my opera style sofa, you know, we're talking Oprah Winfrey style. Like you say, everything bells and whistles. I want to go the full Monty.
You know what, everything starts with a single idea, and I love the idea that you've got right now of interviewing people during your lockdown period. And who's to say that after lockdown that this cannot be an opera style show? We just don't know, right? So everything starts with that one action, and just move in the right direction. Everything else shows up. That's been my philosophy in life.
Absolutely, but it's recognizing those opportunities, because all too often people can put it out there but they don't recognize it. So it is being tuned in and being aware, like we've spoken about before. It is that level of awareness and open-mindedness, and going, because these opportunities don't necessarily come in the shapes and sizes that you might think they do. So it's just being aware and being cute to them.
Absolutely.
But anyway, thank you so much. So how do people contact you, Kul? Because there's obviously a few methods. You've got your website and different numbers, but how would best to contact you?
We are just about to launch our second website, which is going to be called igniteyourinnerpotential.com. But currently you can still contact me on my personal website, which is kulmahay.com. I'm so boring because it's so easy to find me on LinkedIn, which is probably my best platform. It's Kul Mahay. Just look for Kul Mahay. Facebook, it's Kul Mahay. We have a private Facebook group. You're welcome to join. It's called Ignite Your Inner Potential. And I'm on Instagram as Kul Mahay. I'm Kul Mahay everywhere. Just Google Kul Mahay.
That's what I say. How would people not have heard of you? You are Kul Mahay. Kul Mahay, in fact.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for your time. I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you, Kul.